Alright, Anti-Bullshit-Man, Section G. Assisted suicide versus unsolicited mercy killings. Doesn't sound very good. But anyway, it just seems like it's all kind of a crap. It says also known as social contract versus absolute value. It puts that in italics there, absolute value. Yeah, and it's sort of an important distinction. Some conversations you're going to have are about conversations in bigger pictures than, what was fair by some sort of democratic process. You could argue that lots of people there's lots of people who are guilty of something, and the social contract just didn't work. It didn't convict them, and they got away with murder, so to speak. And somebody could intervene, and it would be totally within a kind of right to make things right. Sort of. They're either going to be right or wrong in what they do. Every time you have a war, you're basically breaking a social contract of sorts, and saying, no, this is important enough, and I'm going to fight to the death for it, or whatever. So the social contract isn't written in stone or something. It's nice to be obedient to it in the sense where we have to be pragmatic. It's survivable that way. But there are exceptions. And you can argue from both points of view. You can argue within some sort of, you contracted for something, and there's times where you didn't contract for those kind of restrictions, and your rebellion is perfectly reasonable. So when are we allowed to rebel in the interest of some sort of absolute understanding of truth, or definition of truth, or perception of value that is not consistent with what your society or your culture is imposing? One could argue that it would be perfectly within the boundaries of good behavior for somebody to rebel against tyrannical rulers, like in Iran or something. So anyway, so these are our separate conversations. Sometimes you're having conversations that are bounded by social contract norms and memes and standards and definitions, and sometimes you're having a conversation about, in the end, ultimately, what's in the best interest of everything. And that's going to be a different conversation. And but Anti-Bullshit-Man apparently won't allow there to be that distinction. So anyway, he does give me some credit in here about fighting the good fight for the right to die, and he quotes my statement, individuals should have the right to invest their own welfare in their own judgment. And it's his argument that this statement is a very good statement, but that somehow I've dishonored it, or I have disrespected it, or I have not lived up to it, because I would make the argument there are some people that society would be better off if it just killed them. And because I dare to say that, somehow I'm violating that statement. Their own welfare in their own judgment. Because that's where it really gets tricky, right? I mean, most of the people, well, I'll read his little paragraph here, but most of the people I'm talking about are not people whose own welfare is at stake. No, there's the social, there's a huge social cost. And the social cost comes down to other individuals will pay the price for. These individuals I'm talking about, or I might say we're better off, giving them a nice peaceful whack in the head in a dark alley without them even knowing it was coming. Because I would say something like that. Or make the argument that children below a certain age don't really have a respectable life interest. And they certainly don't have an own judgment to invest in yet. So again, he calls this a kind of hypocrisy, and I don't see any hypocrisy in it, or duplicity, or double standard, or any of the crap he implies. Because, again, there are things that belong to you and things that don't belong to you. And you don't have a right to be a blight. You want to quote that one, Anti-Bullshit-Man? You don't have a right to be a blight. How about that? Yeah, I like that one too. Alright, anyway, Noble, go revisit any Right to Die video of my Inmendham. He delivers the quoted statement with an air of irreversibility and leaves the viewership with the impression that the principle... No, that's the part I wanted to read. Now the deal breaker. Okay, the irreconcilable unrevealed themselves in small increments, starting with Stickham sessions dating back to 2011, during which Inmendham screams to the top of his lungs, constantly asking the question, where is the harm? Well, it's an important question. It really is. It's an important question. My contract is with a principle of, again, there has to be a harm for an act to be in any way a violation of something. It has to, there has to be harm for there to be a violation. You can't violate without a harm. So if I ask for somebody to recite the harm, that's not asking too much. That's pretty much asking for them just to, hey, if you got a claim to make it. Otherwise, you got nothing, right? It's not that complicated. Alright, an example he used in one occasion this past summer was of a soldier whose post-war life is grueling and wasteful. Wasteful, key, puts in italics, very important word. And how such a soldier would be better off had he blown himself to smithereens during combat. If he had been blown to smithereens during combat. Yeah, well, I made the example. I don't know if I made it the way you're stating it. I just made the point that, you know, some of the lucky ones were the guys who got shot in the war. Okay, these, you know, because they're dead quick. And the unlucky ones are the ones battered and bruised and banged up and, you know, come back to a world that they can't even relate to anymore. Yeah, maybe you're better off dead. That's right. So that's some sort of outrageous thing for me to say? I don't think so. Naturally, such an outcome would have been preferable under a zero-sum game anyway. Well, that's right. And yes, it's always going to be preferable, no matter what circumstance it is. It's going to be preferable that you don't sit there and wait for your cancer to show up, or wait for your heart attack, or wait for your embolism, or wait for whatever it is that's going to come for you. It's always going to be better not to do that. But we don't have any mechanism in place to make it possible for people not to wait for it. So they end up just waiting for it because everybody else is just waiting for it. And it's pretty fucking stupid that we live that way. Alright, value benchmark that dismisses people who want to live as irrational. Well, it's not because life is a zero-sum game, essentially. That is the irrational part of wanting to live. The benchmark... The point being made is that, yes, these people are denying fundamental elements of reality, and that's the irrational part, to come up with this positive attitude. This positive attitude is not made out of a rational, reasonable perception of reality. It's made up of a lie. Nonsense. Bullshit. Alright, this severely undermines every last one of Inmendham's trademark. It's not about your life, it's about you having kids proclamations. No, it isn't. There's two different subjects. There's subjects about what is in the interest of civilization, its progress before it gets to some better point. Obviously, there has to be a process of getting from here to there. I've said that before, but I mean, it's sort of important, and you just keep wanting to deny that kind of stuff, and that's bullshit. What else? There's yeah, I have to turn the pot off. I can smell it overboiling. Ouch. Yeah, so some of this stuff has got to be pragmatic, and some of it's absolute, and some of it all fits in different categories of philosophy. But yeah, in the end, it all has to be consistent with the end game, and I think all of what I'm saying is consistent with the end game, which is let's gracefully exit stage left. Gracefully as possible. So anyway, proclamations he pays lip service to. Yeah, in redacted YouTube videos. What do you mean where do I have a redacted YouTube video? Where is that? Show me one of those. But once Tiny Chat rolls around, all bets are off. Oh, you mean I redact them before I make them? Yeah, I do that because, yeah, they'll get my channel closed. So, yeah, I'm a little more careful in videos. That's true. But once Tiny Chat rolls around, all bets are off as... Yeah, well, is there something wrong with that? It's not like all bets are off. And again, I'll stand by what I say. I mean, sometimes I say things just really kind of just sloppy just to get them said. All right? But I think most reasonable people know the difference. I mean, sometimes I just say, oh, yeah, we ought to just whack, you know, like even, you know, spammers on the internet. I'll say something like, yeah, we should, you know, if we catch one, we should, like, gut him in the public square. Now, I really don't think we should do that, but I think we should do something fairly draconian to send the message that this is really, really, really suck-ass behavior. I mean, wasting, just, you know, doing it for no good reason and wasting billions and billions of dollars that could be devoted to curing malaria or something is just so evil. I mean, damn, you can't get more evil than that. You know, to burn the productivity of human beings and force them to work more and do all kinds of things because you want to break their computers? I mean, those kind of people just should be totally squished. But I don't really mean squished. You see what I mean? I mean, there's things you say because it's emotionally you need to say them. And people, I think, know the difference. But AntiBullshitMan wants to... No, he wants to play a game with that. Fine, play your stupid game. It's just a game. I've made the arguments clear enough in the videos, and I'm satisfied that my message is consistent enough, and I just think you're being a nitpicker, and a naysayer, and a weasel. Yeah. So anyway, so he's talking about now old people in here too, how I want to kill them for no good reason, and blah blah blah. And I'll say the word again. Yeah, there are certain rules about life. That's right. If you consume resources, and a lot of them, that means the resources can't be used somewhere else. It's just a fact. Resources don't just grow on trees, so to speak. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, yes, some stuff does, but you have to put fertilizer in the ground. We know it all costs money. There's no free lunch, and there's certainly no free medical care, and there's no free anything. It's got to be paid for by something, by somebody. There's things you can't have to have that stuff. And so when you squander anything, when you waste anything, waste is bad, okay? So, yeah. There's nothing wrong with me passing judgment on the lack of practicality in building bad cars, lemons, and wasting money on lemon human beings. There are lemons out there, and we can identify them. We can identify, you know, humans that are basically just a wreck, and you don't spend any more money on them. They're rust buckets. They're whatever you want to call it, and they're done. They're cooked. They're finished. And they don't have any eternal right to waste resources. I'm just saying that. I'm saying that overtly. Your right is your own welfare. As soon as you're affecting other people's welfare, then it's not your own welfare invested in your own judgment anymore, is it? No, it isn't. And there's certain rights to claims. We have a right to claim ownership of our civilization, and we have a right to claim ownership to progress. We have a right to claim ownership to efficiency and the demands, the necessity of it. And so those claims can be made. The claims people are making to own somebody's life who wants to commit suicide, those claims are completely unacceptable. Those claims are just claims like, I believe in a God, I'm going to impose my religion on you. That's not an acceptable claim. They don't have a claim on that property. I have a claim on the social interest. It's probably, I can leave it that simple. I have a claim on the social interest. And I'm going to use it where appropriate. And I think I have used it where appropriate. So, enough of that. Yeah. Okay. Fuck you. Yeah, I guess I could say it one more time. I don't even know what this last comment was. I've lost count of the number of cakes Inmendham has had and eaten too. Oh, have my cake and eat it too. I guess that's just making a joke about that old stupid cliche that doesn't really make a hell of a lot of sense. Have your cake and eat it too. Oh, that's right. If you eat it, then you don't have any cake left because you ate it. But you ate it, so you're full, so you don't need cake anymore. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But whatever. I'm really, you know, he's just got all this catch-22 ultimatum. I mean, he's just using all this phraseology to imply that I'm dishonest, inconsistent, unprincipled. I mean, all that kind of crap, and it's just not true. And yeah, he sucks. Yeah. I'm upset.